It pops right up. All right. Okay, here we go. All right. Hey, everybody. It is Sunday night. We are live, and I am here with the one and only Dr. Jack Wolfson. Super honored to have you here, Jack. Thank you so much for joining us. So welcome to the show.
I'm super excited to be here. I guess I am the one and only Jack Wolfson. I don't know of any others, but certainly not others who say the stuff that I'm going to say on this platform. So, Dr. Paula Ruffin, it's a pleasure to be on with you and just so excited to talk more.
Yeah, this is amazing. So, Jack and I met a few years ago. We were both in a business group together, and it's just been, it's great to follow you, Jack. And it's also a breath of fresh air to have somebody who's in the medical field who gets what being healthy really is. And, the things that you talk about and the things that you say and how you want to take care of people and humans and help with their level of vitality and really look at root cause. I mean, that's what chiropractors are doing. And I know you're married to a chiropractor, so it's that also, boy, you guys like that's like the ultimate right there for you two. So but I wanted to dive in a little bit. So you're a cardiologist. As far as your backstory, I think this is really important to get this out because I was listening to some of your videos and you said, when you went to medical school, all they taught you was statins and hypertension medication. And so prior to that, my history, my mom, my single mother raised us on food stamps, but she always cooked healthy. We're Lebanese. So it was always healthy home cooked meals. Fast food, processed food wasn't an option when I was growing up. So I look at it like, she built a legacy. And now here I am, teaching this and teaching my daughter. So prior to you going to medical school, what was your lifestyle like? Were you raised like that, or was this something that you had to find later in life?
Now, as far as how I was raised, it was definitely later in life. I'm a Chicago guy, Midwesterner like you, and deep dish pizza, Italian beef sandwiches, hot dogs, ethnic foods, alcohol, everything about, all the great things people love about living in Chicago is the stuff that I was doing. And ultimately I would meet the woman, as you said, who would become my wife. She's a doctor of chiropractic. And as I met her, my father was sick and dying, and my father was a cardiologist. He was my hero. I was following right in his footsteps, and my father is sick and dying of a Parkinson's-like illness. And eventually we take him to the Mayo Clinic, and the Mayo Clinic diagnoses him with something called progressive supranuclear palsy, which is similar to Parkinson's. And they said there's no cause or why he has this, and there's no cure, and he'll be dead within 3 years. And I meet this woman simultaneously, and she's a 29-year-old doctor of chiropractic, and she says, I'm going to tell you exactly why your father is sick and dying. And that's what she does. The food he eats, the lifestyle, everything, that goes around, with that, everything he's doing is wrong. That's why he's sick and dying. So the Mayo Clinic has nothing. The 29-year-old chiropractor, she's got all the answers. And I looked at her, around, the hospitals and all the sickness, and I said, what she had to say made total sense. And then ultimately she said, if you don't change, this is going to become you. You're going to be like your father, and you need to become a DC. And I said, wait a second, I just finished up 10 years of medical training. You want me to become a DC, a doctor of chiropractic? And she said, no, DC, doctor of cause. You got to become a doctor of cause. And that's exactly what I did. I would leave the biggest group in the state of Arizona as a hospital-based cardiologist, start my own company, Natural Heart Doctor, and that would eventually bring me to meet people like you, amazing physicians like you. So thank you again.
That's incredible. I can't imagine that making that transition was easy, though, because, when you think about mindset, and I had a recent experience with a medical doctor. I had this little drumming thing in my ear, and I went to an ENT, and he was incredibly disrespectful and scoffed at me. And he wanted me to do steroids. And I just said, just let me know, just tell me nothing's wrong. That's all I wanted. I know how to take care of it. Just tell me nothing's wrong. And he wanted to, give me nasal steroids and all this stuff. And I said, listen, I'll do silver spray and I'll take quercetin. And he was like, just completely, well, I don't even know what you're talking about. And so the mindset of that, again, like you made a transition, clearly your wife had an impact on you, which is awesome for you to even listen, because I feel like a lot of medical doctors are probably just living in that, like, this is my toolbox, this is my little box right here. And if you don't fit within it, then not even I can't help you, but I'm going to help you with whatever tool. So you need a screwdriver, but I'm going to give you a hammer regardless, because I'm going to give you something. And I hear that a lot. Well, they want you to come away with something. And I feel like that's just all you have to do is say, looks fine, nothing's wrong. Hey, yeah, if that works for you, do that. So when you made that transition, what was that like? Did you feel like, holy moly, was it scary? Was it like what did that look like for you? And I mean, obviously you had to know that there was something greater on the other side, or did you just take a leap of faith?
No, it really just clicked for me very, very quickly. Again, just seeing all the problems with mainstream medicine, how you experience things, how I treated people in that same scenario, where it's just they come in, you try and identify their problem, and is it high blood pressure, cholesterol, coronary disease, diabetes, and then you're quickly trying to prescribe a pharmaceutical or some kind of procedure, and that's exactly what you experienced at the ENT, right? The ENT has pharmaceuticals and he's got surgical procedures, or of course, tests you don't need. Okay, well, we can do a CT scan, we can do an MRI, and it's clearly such a problem. But I felt like I was kind of going back to the movie The Matrix, stuff like that, and Neo, just kind of like coming out of the Matrix, and it was like it was honestly, Paula, it was like being reborn. It was an absolute rebirth, and the reason why most medical doctors are not going to accept this is that they've been led this brainwashing for their entire life. And if you try and change that, you're going to upset their financial, situation, right? Their revenue. You're going to change how for the medical boards and how your peers look at you. So that would be a problem. But ultimately, it cracks the entire foundation. So I meet this 29-year-old woman, chiropractor, and she's like, your entire profession is worthless. You're killing people. You're not helping anyone. You're absolutely killing everybody you're in contact with, because you are not telling them the truth. You are not telling them about health and wellness. Therefore, you are killing everyone. You either tell people how to be healthy or you tell people how to be sick. And what she said just made that perfect sense. But this kind of God complex that most medical doctors have, you cannot allow any kind of penetration into that armor of that false belief, because once you have your doubts, it makes it really difficult to stay inside of the medical matrix.
And it's such a great point, because I remember when I actually became a chiropractor and trying to, this whole lane of natural health, and feeling like I was screaming at people, like, my God, just because you're on high blood pressure medication doesn't mean it's normal. And I think the social brainwashing of, if you're on a medication and it's managed, it's fine. And I hear that so often, and I have to, one of the biggest drugs that people are on, I think personally, that they think is just completely normal, is thyroid medication. They're like, I mean, besides, because I do want to get into statins. I think that's a really important topic for us. But thyroid medication, people are like, oh, I have autoimmune and I'm on thyroid and it's managed and I'm fine. And I'm like, you're not fine. And so there's this mindset that's really hard to crack sometimes, where you trying to get people to think of, listen, you're not, it's not the thyroid medication you're deficient in, it's something else. It's not high blood pressure medication, it's not aspirin, it's not Tylenol. Like, what do you need? Why is your tank empty? What's it empty of? What do we need to fill it with to get your body to work the way it needs to? So, how do you have people coming to you and saying, listen, I'm on all these medications, I just want to get off? How do people find you, and what does that look like when people come to see you for treatment?
It usually is that second opinion type of approach. So somebody already has been labeled with hypertension or Hashimoto's or heart failure, whatever medical label that they've been given, which does not address what the cause is. So if somebody has autoimmune thyroid disease, commonly known as Hashimoto's, you better figure out why. Because just because they've given you a synthetic pharmaceutical or a natural, replacement, if you will, they're not going after the cause. And therefore, some other autoimmune condition will arise. And back to your point, if you take pharmaceuticals that change your numbers artificially, please do not think for 1 second that you are the same as someone who has normal blood pressure, for example, without pharma. The literature is very, very, very clear on that, Paula, that essentially, whether or not, if you have high blood pressure, no meds, if you have controlled blood pressure on meds, you're basically at the same risk. The only strategy is to be normal blood pressure, no meds. That is health, and that is very clear, but you're just not going to hear that from the medical community because they get paid to not say that.
Yeah, that's so true, man. That there was so much gold that you just dropped in there. I love that. It's like, I hope everybody like really heard that. Is that, yeah, just because you are taking medication and you have the same blood pressure as somebody who is not, that doesn't make you normal or even healthy. And when I try to tell my patients about, so okay, high blood pressure. Okay, your blood pressure's up. Now we're going to give you a pill to push it down. What do you think's going to happen to something else? Like the body is looking for homeostasis, right? So if you push something else down, something else is going to go up. And then how often do you get prescribed another medication for the side effect of the cause of the thing that you took the original thing for? And then it's just unravels from there. You can't even keep up with it. So,
well, I mean, if I may, it's not even a matter, we can discuss the side effects of all cardiovascular drugs and diabetic drugs. We can talk about those all day long. It's just a matter of they don't work for what they say they work for. There is definitely a heavy side effect profile, but some people would say, well, I can deal with the side effects because I get so much benefit. The problem is you don't get any benefit, but that's just not what you're going to hear. But I lived it. I was born into the cardiology world. I think about this, that I'm actually in my mother's womb. I'm in utero and I'm listening to my father and his colleagues talk about cardiology. I was born into that matrix. And it's just wrong when I look back at it. And I'm just so happy to be able to get out the truth to people. You better, just like you said, if you've got Hashimoto's, you better figure out why. For example, atrial fibrillation, millions of people suffer from that irregular heart rhythm. And you can actually take pharma for AFib, and it may be helpful for your symptoms. You may actually take pharma, or you may actually get an ablation for your AFib. But do people know that people with AFib have a higher risk of cancer and a higher risk of dementia? Well, pharma does nothing for those. Ablations do nothing for those. You're still at higher risk for cancer and dementia. So you better figure out the cause of why you have your health problems.
Let's stay on AFib for a minute because I'm so suspicious of this. I mean, 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was rare to hear about this. So you probably see it all day long. I mean, so many of my patients are coming in saying they have AFib, and it's becoming like this almost normal, frighteningly normal thing for people. What do you think is causing this? I have my suspicions on outside sources, but and have you seen a steady rise over the years, and did that cause you to question what was going on?
Well, there definitely is a steady rise in all these chronic diseases, certainly inside of cardiology. And what I really noticed to that point is that a lot of younger people with atrial fibrillation, it was kind of always thought to be this older person's diagnosis, 60s, 70s, and 80s. But when you start seeing people in their 30s and 40s with this, now you start to really get suspicious that there is more of a kind of a global problem here. But the way that I view everything, every single diagnosis, whether it's thyroid, AFib, cardiac cancer, dementia, it's all through that the lens or the method that we use called eat well, live well, think well. So what are the right foods? What are the wrong foods? What's the right lifestyle? Sleep, sunshine, physical activity, movement, chiropractic, oral health and wellness, avoidance of environmental toxins, which just say, okay, is it possible that the toxins and toxins, of course, is a million item category, and that could be things that we swallow, things that are injected, things that are in our environment, EMF, certainly mold mycotoxins, all these different things. And then, of course, violations of think well, how stress, anger, depression, worry, which are markedly accelerated, also lead to inflammation, and that also leads to AFib. So it's no surprise that we're seeing a lot more of these diagnoses.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I guess if I'm hearing you correctly, just distilling it, it's just more of what's going on in the from an Are you there, Jack? Did I lose you? Okay, can you guys hear me? I had Jack. Let's see if I can get him back. Oh my God. Okay. Am I in? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, if you can see me. Can you hear me now? Oh my God. I took that dog on an hour-long run in the field to get his energy out. And then he was under the oh my God. Oh, I'm so upset right now. All right, let me see if I can email Jack, send him a message. Okay, hold on. Jump back in. That is really upsetting. Bentley. No, I needed somebody to drag the dog out from under the table. That's what I needed. Okay. Hang tight, you guys. Hang tight. Oh, there he is. Okay. Oh. The dog. I took the dog on an hour-long run in a field today.
Do you remember that house that we went and did a dust sample? And I yelled at you.
And he just unplugged everything.
That is absolutely hilarious.
God.
Absolutely hilarious.
And so with that, I'm just going to say also that Jack and I had a brief conversation about not being perfect before we went live. And that, I said, I don't want to be perfect. I want people to see all the imperfections of trying to do this. And here you are in the car with your kids. And I think it's the most beautiful thing in the world that we're both just sitting here, like trying to get information out to people and just doing it how we do it. So yeah.
Well, I think, really, because a lot of the stuff that we talk about, right, inside of the concept of eat well, live well, think well. And I know you practice, the same methodology. And it's and really it's trying to fit this stuff into people's lives. Like how do people do all this stuff with all the crazy chaos going on in the world? And I think that's really important to give people, that message. But, we were discussing all the different toxins that people are exposed to, these days that are leading to disease earlier. And I think that really is kind of the way to explain it. I mean, certainly people eat as poorly now as they ever did. There's as much chemicals in the food as there ever was. Probably, other things like tech, right? So the heavy use of technology at night, the blue light coming from the devices, the EMF from the devices. So yeah, our toxic burden certainly has never been higher in the history of humankind.
Well, and I guess if we think about, we are an electrical system, and AFib is a disruption of the electrical system. And especially with all of these, we're with, and you mentioned EMFs and you put toxins in your body, and it is a massive disruption to the nervous system. And so, yeah, I guess that makes sense that something like AFib is going to start to, really start to rear its ugly head. And I've been talking a lot about vitamin D and sunscreens lately, because here in Michigan, we hibernate and we don't have much sunlight. But it was 50 degrees today. The sun was out, and that's when I took the dog out and took him for a walk. I'm like, I still have to get outside and get the fresh air. I would love to, be able to have as much sun exposure as I do in the summer. It's just not likely, but at least I got fresh air. I was outside. It was a good mental break. And I think too many of us like dive right inside and don't get out, and they don't get that fresh air. And then from here also, in the middle of summer, we're slathering on all of this sunscreen. So you've got that chemical going on. You're blocking that. You're not getting your vitamin D, and then you're like, I don't know why I have skin cancer. Well, you've been attempting to avoid the sun forever, but then you don't go out in the sun because you're like, I have skin cancer, I can't go out in the sun. Well, no, you just shouldn't put all that garbage on your body. And so I think, that message, eat well. What's your tagline? Eat well, think well, live well. Eat well, live well, think well.
Yeah, some combination thereof. And that really highlights the fact that they're all equally as important, so you can put them in any order you want.
And I think though too, I think that ebbs and flows too, right? I think sometimes we have more, mental, emotional stress that we have to manage. Sometimes, the physical, oh man, I got to get out and walk. I couldn't get a workout in, or there's or maybe you're traveling and you don't quite have access to the right foods that you want. So I always say if we can live at least 90% of our lives as healthy as possible, then if you end up on an airplane and you have to eat the peanuts that have soybean oil in it and you're starving and you're going to go into a blood sugar crash, then maybe that's not the worst of anything. But I do feel like the more we protect ourselves, the better armor we have. So when we're faced with situations or additional stress, I had a dear friend of mine told me something that her husband had revealed to her, and she was like shocked about, he's not, it wasn't like a divorce worthy thing or anything like that, but still she was like, oh my God, I can't, but it sidelined her, and it was sudden stress. And that's, so now you've got to really wrap your head around, you got to figure out how do I bring my fight or flight back down? How do I, tap back into my calmness and get my parasympathetic rebooted so this doesn't take over and cause damage. But also with all of those things, there's also a lot of confusion. So I thought it would be great for us to go into, and of course, this is why I reached out to you, because of, if we talk about eat well, let's start there. When we talk about eat well, I'm not a big proponent of this one size fits all things. If we go way back when, it was the South Beach diet, right? And or what came first, Atkins and then South Beach, and now we have, and it's keto, and then it's vegan, or it's vegetarian. And people just want to, it's like, oh my God, I got to do something, and my neighbor did that, so I should do that. So how do you help people navigate through all of the confusion?
Well, the first thing that I tell people is that no matter what diet you follow, vegan, vegetarian, paleo, keto, carnivore, South Beach, Mediterranean, just make it organic. Just get the chemicals out of your food. So if you're going to have, as you mentioned, peanuts with soybean oil, I guess if you were going to, you'd want to eat that with organic peanuts and organic soy. But of course, I know you talk about that, is kind of like that last ditch on the plane. I would just come closer to dying than eating that on a plane or anywhere. And honestly, another conversation as far as the eating component, I think, is intermittent fasting, and traveling is a great time to intermittent fast. You don't have to stuff your face every time you get into a car or on a plane. So that's a great time just to drink a lot of water, get up, move around the plane. You're not going to die on the plane because you didn't eat, food on there. So I think that's a great strategy. But no matter what you do, just eat organic. I don't think anybody is saying, oh, it's much better off with chemicals in the food than not. So getting rid of the artificial ingredients, artificial flavors, artificial sweeteners, of course, getting rid of the pesticides to the best of our ability in a totally toxic, polluted world is always going to be a great strategy. So I love the idea of starting off organic. And then, I'm a hunter-gatherer guy. I am known as the paleo cardiologist. My book's called The Paleo Cardiologist. That's what people called me early on when I started reading a lot of books related to nutrition after I met my wife in 2005. And I came out of that as, hey, listen, you know what? We're hunter-gatherers. It makes every anthropologist, paleontologist, PhDs from all over the world, it's the same story. The survival shows on Today, Alone, Naked and Afraid, Survivor itself, they're hunter-gatherers. They're not they're eating bowls of oatmeal. And and wheat bread, and what about quinoa, what about rice, and they weren't eating that stuff. So if you look at it through that common sense philosophy, that you just understand that we were hunters, we ate free range grass fed meats, including the organs, we ate seafood as hunters, wild salmon, sardines, anchovies, clams, oysters, shrimp, the whole, gamut. We ate eggs. Eggs are a cocoon for a baby chicken. All the vitamins, minerals, nutrients that a chicken needs to come to life. Try raising a chicken on oatmeal. You're not going to get very far. And then on top of that, Paula, I would say that I am 100% gluten free. So do the Wolfsons, do we occasionally have brown rice? Do we occasionally have quinoa and some of these other maybe kind of healthier, nutritious grains. But it really is that rare treat. We do believe certainly that gluten is poison. We do testing on people, intestinal hyperpermeability panels, immune panels. So you look at that person you mentioned before with Hashimoto's. So is it possible that gluten is leading to her Hashimoto's? Yes, it's possible. And there are thousands of people who say that they were healed when they got off gluten. But those aren't the only things, of course, that lead to leaky gut. But those are the strategies that we follow inside of the Eat Well. And also, super clean water is critical. Don't forget to do the fasting, and you're good to go.
Yeah, that is pretty much how we eat in this house. Is we don't do a lot of grain. We have the occasional grain. Again, growing up Lebanese, we did eat a lot of rice, but we ate a lot of organ meats. And if the lamb had it, my mom was cooking it for us. So this is just how we grew up. And again, home cooked meals, and we had a garden. And so these are the things that I try to teach on this channel. Is that and of course, a lot of the people that are joining us in the chat, a lot of these people, they grow their own food. And it's so important. I go out there, I don't have to worry about the pesticides because I grew it. I know it's in it. I'm making salsa with everything I grew in my garden. And my friend Bill that's in the chat, he picked a bunch of apples from his orchard and we made applesauce, and I've got dehydrated apples. So I do a lot of food preservation for that reason, because I know our ancestors in hunting and gathering, they at some point they were able to figure out how to preserve meat and preserve things, and cold storage and things like that. So I just have the fancy dehydrator to do that. So, but I dehydrate things, I freeze things, I can things, and my biggest thought is that there's no way in the middle of January I would be able to go find even an organic tomato, because even organic tomatoes are all hydroponic in the stores. And I would never find an organic tomato in the middle of January that is going to taste as good as what comes out of the jar that I picked fresh and put in the jar back in September. So that's how I like to grow as much food as I can, preserve as much food as I can. And I always say to people, I know it's a lot, but you have to start somewhere. So, if you want something better for yourself, a lot of people will say, well, I don't know where to start, or I don't know what to do. And I go, yeah, but you know what not to do. Like, you're not supposed to be shoveling donuts in your mouth. That big thing that you get at Starbucks that's $10, and you're complaining that you don't have enough money to eat healthy, and this thing has 1,200 calories in it, that's probably not a good choice, right?
Totally agree. And listen, if you're able to do this, Paula, listen, you're a mother, you're a physician, and you're finding the time to do all these various things. I mean, that's absolutely spectacular. But I think that it's sugar is probably the most common addiction in the entire world, whether it's from carbs, it's overt, processed sugar, or it's alcohol, which is sugar. And as long as you do it organically, that I think is an easy strategy. So if you're listening to you and I right now, Dr. Paula, and you're like, oh, these two doctors are talking about ice cream. That triggers my brain. I want ice cream. Oh, life is to be enjoyed. And I'm not telling you to do it, but if you're going to do it, just get the chemicals out of your food. Go get Strauss's free range grass-fed ice cream. I'm sure, you may have some recipes, or you may not, I don't know. So of homemade ice cream, right? Raw cream, raw milk, raw eggs, raw raw honey that would go into that. You put it into the ice cream maker. There's no healthier sugary treat for your children, for yourself, than that. And let me wrap up this final thought. I do want to say this, because when we talk about the extremes of, you're a Michigan girl, I'm a Chicago guy, all these things, your ancestors, you said, are Lebanese. Lebanon is near the equator. Our ancestors came from the equator. That's where the healthiest lifestyle is. It's not in Michigan. No offense to the people there. It's not in my hometown of Chicago or Cleveland or Minneapolis or Portland, Seattle, anywhere in Canada. I mean, we came from the equator. So when people say, I really want to get healthy, we've said this many times, you can't get healthy in the same environment you got sick. You got to change up your environment drastically. And in some cases that may be, like you said, okay, there's no sunshine in the winter, there's no vitamin D production in the wintertime in the northern hemisphere, which is essentially true above the 30 latitude. So what do you got to do? You better take a lot of vacations. You better eat a lot of animal products. You can consider getting a vitamin D lamp. But one thing I would not really consider at any significant level is vitamin D supplementation. Not a fan. I would do it from those other things first.
Oh, talk to me about that, because we've been talking a lot about vitamin D supplementation. So that's usually what I'm prescribing for people, because I can't get them to eat organ meats. And not too many people are buying the lamps. So what are your, but of course I am using, I use Metagenics, which is, high quality pharmaceutical grade supplements. So, so give us some insight is why do you say that? Where's your philosophy?
I would say, the hierarchy obviously always goes with nature. So,
for sure.
And a lot of people, of course, have cholesterol problems. And I think, and a lot of times it's a sunshine deficiency. So what happens is that when the sun, when it's appropriately, the time of the year at a certain level, and typically there would be summertime in the northern hemisphere, when the sun hits the skin, it turns cholesterol coursing through the blood vessels in the skin. It turns it into vitamin D. Therefore, vitamin D levels go up, cholesterol levels go down. And that's the way that somebody would want to achieve optimal cholesterol levels. So in the summertime, you really want to stack up that summer sun. You want to crank up vitamin D as much as you can by getting all that quality sun. Next, if you can take vacations, find a sunny climate, Southern Caribbean, Costa Rica, Panama, and I understand a lot of people say, listen, I can't afford that. I can't do that. Or I don't want to do that. I want to be, I want the Michigan winter. I'm here. I love the Michigan winters. I love the cold. I love the overcast. I love the wind. For those who are saying that, which I've never met that person, but if they're out there, maybe they can comment in the comment section. And then on top of that, next step would be to get the lamp, ideally, and in conjunction with that, certainly eating all animal food contains vitamin D. Humans contain vitamin D. Animals contain vitamin D. You can't get vitamin D from the plant world. And then if all that stuff fails, Dr. Paula, I would agree that vitamin D supplementation from the quality company, that you mentioned there and others would be a strategy. Whenever you take vitamin D in any form, of course, you always want to take vitamin K2. The best source of K2 is not MK7. It's actually MK4, which uniquely is found in the Australian bird, the emu. And that's a great source of vitamin K2 is MK4. And my wife, actually, Dr. Heather, has that on her website called wildmamas.com, and they've got the emu oil on there. And then, of course, we test people's levels of K2, but you don't want solo vitamin D supplementation. You want the combo. And what I don't like, and again, the emu oil contains the D and the K in there naturally, so it's the best form. I don't like a lot of these combo products because it doesn't let you dial in what individual people need. Like sometimes they need a lot more K than they do D. So not really a fan of those combo, although it's convenient, and it does highlight the importance of the two of them together. It's just, Paula, most of the data on the benefits of high levels of vitamin D, it comes from people who achieved it naturally. Although vitamin D supplementation raises levels, it doesn't really make a meaningful impact as much as you would like. So I think I made hopefully that point pretty clear.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And, I've often wondered as well that if you're, and this is pure speculation that you might have an answer to, is that if you are getting enough vitamin D through the sun, not slathering sunscreens, blocking those rays, if you're getting enough vitamin D through the summer, then it is fat soluble. So are you able to store enough for the winter without supplementation? Or it's probably still pretty important to at least get more organ meats or take those vacations? Or, you know, what are your thoughts on that? How long do you think we can store vitamin D?
Well, the more that we stack up in the summertime, the longer we store it. And that also maybe, as you said, since it is fat soluble, maybe even predicated on someone's weight. So maybe a person who is overweight can store more theoretically. But I think ultimately it just comes down to testing. You know, so you can test your levels in December and see where your numbers are at. And anything below 30, I think, is an urgent situation to do something about it. And vacations are so beneficial for so many reasons. And if you said to someone, hey, stop the Starbucks crap a frappuccino, like you said, right? Save up for this vacation. And oh, by the way, your life depends on it. Why are heart attacks and strokes and people dying much more common in the winter? Why do these infections, or why are they much more common in the winter? One of those factors is from vitamin D. And the lack thereof. So go embrace it. And I think also, I learned this from a chiropractor, a friend of mine, when he talked about what he talks to people when they come into the office. I think you'll like this, Paul. Like when people come in and they've got all this stress on their mind, their lives, and they got all these things going on, he doesn't want to treat them or adjust them into the stress. He wants to kind of get them, as you mentioned before, into this parasympathetic state so their body gets a better adjustment, holds the adjustment better, just has a much better experience. So he asks them, what's going on? When is your next vacation? Tell me about something, you know, fun coming up in your life. And as we think about the concept of eat well, live well, think well, that's one of the things I teach people is to always have something in the future planned. Now that vacation could be in 6 months, it could be in 6 years, but just put something in the calendar, look forward to, that helps take you into your happy place. Like, oh, I'm going down to, you know, to the Caribbean in a few months or in a few years, and I can't wait. It's just this future casting, I think, is beneficial.
It's such a great point. I usually, when people come into my office, I look them in the eye and I say, tell me something good. And if they want to start bitching about something, I go, no, I don't know. That's not the question I asked. I said, tell me something good. And a lot of times they can't come up with it. But I like that future casting is start to think about, you know, put that good, positive thing out in front of you so that you can, sorry, hold on. Hey, he's awfully close to the power strip again. So, but also people come and when they sit, so I start people in a chair I just seated, and they sit in the chair and I'm standing behind them. I put my hands on their shoulders and they're like, and they're just having this like this super high nervous system, like just chatter. And I go, okay, you done? And then it's time to take a deep breath. And then we breathe together. And I said, you're no longer allowed to speak for the rest of our conversation. So we lost Jack for a sec. But that's how I get people to relax. Oh, you there?
I'm here. I can hear you. I don't know what's...
Okay, there you are. Yeah.
Where my video went. Sorry. Okay, good.
Okay. So yeah, so I force that same thing, because you can feel, even if they're sitting in the chair and they tuck their feet under, it tightens everything up to the upper cervical. So I get everybody as relaxed as possible, and I don't allow them to speak when they're on my table, because I feel that, especially if they're talking about something stressful, you feel the body, you feel the tension in the body. And, you know, and I'll just say, I got 3 minutes with you. These are going to be the 3 most relaxing minutes of your life. So let's do this, you know. But it's a great point, though, to, you know, to really. Are you there? Did I lose you?
Real quick, I wanted to say this. I can hear you now. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah.
You're good? Okay.
Yep.
So you make a great point. As people come in, they're so, and then in the traditional medical doctor's office, right, they're so wound up. They got the weight of the world on. Slaps a blood pressure cuff on their arm. Now they're more nervous. They slap the blood pressure cuff on and they take a blood pressure. What do you know? It's high. And then they get prescribed a pharmaceutical. And then they come in again and the same thing happens again. And what do you know? It's high. They get a second pharmaceutical. It's a scam. It's a sham. It's everything that the doctors of chiropractic make fun of the medical community for. I'm here to tell you it's all true. And you know what, Dr. Paula? I'm okay to say, you guys are right. The chiropractic community is right. The medical community is wrong. God bless the men and women who work in emergency rooms and trauma centers. Seriously, I mean, we're not talking about them, but for the prevention, the treatment, the reversal of chronic disease, the medical community has not only nothing, they've got worse than nothing, which is what my wife told me in the beginning. That was so hard for me to swallow, that the whole thing where I'm killing people, because they are not telling people the truth about what it means to be healthy and well, because they don't know it. So therefore, they are killing people by definition, and they don't know it. It is not intentional, but it is what it is. And that's why the average, the male lives to 77 on average. The female lives until she's 80. And that's just not the way that we're built. It's not supposed to be that way.
Well, I tell my patients that going in every 5 years, having a tube shoved up your butt, having your boobs squeezed in a machine every year, that's not prevention. And so you go and you get these invasive, I just had another patient, her husband, they perforated his bowel. He almost died. How often does that happen from a colonoscopy, a routine colonoscopy? And I'm like, this is not, let's shove that tube up your butt. Oh, everything looks fine. You're fine. See you in 5 years. That is not prevention. That doesn't teach you how to eat. It doesn't teach you how to think. It doesn't teach you how to move. It teaches you zero about a healthy lifestyle. But the fact that it's called prevention is just like crazy to me.
Yeah, that is, I mean, if anything, that's early detection. So a mammogram would be early detection. Colonoscopy would be early detection. Of course, mammograms cause cancer. That's number one. Number two, if you want some kind of colon assessment, go for something called the Cologuard test, which is a stool test. Insurance covers it. Not only is it non-invasive, so therefore you do not risk a colonic perforation, as you said, which is a pretty devastating situation. Not only do you not get that, but the risk, but it's a better test that actually finds more cancerous and cancerous colonic lesions. But of course, listen, the doctors will fight that tooth and nail. The gastroenterologist, they line up 20 people a day to have these procedures done. You're basically threatening their revenue in an extreme way, and they will fight it. But and invariably what happens is that every single time they do a colonic biopsy, they'll biopsy something because they get paid several $100 extra for the biopsy components. So they biopsy every time, and oftentimes it is either the air insufflation that leads to perforation, or it's a perforation from the biopsy itself. And it's calamitous. It's just wrong, but yet it's done thousands of times every single day.
Well, and I've had, because I also practice functional medicine. I don't know if you knew that, but I have so many people who come to me and they'll say, well, yeah, my colonoscopy was fine, or I had the biopsy, everything's fine, but they're still having these issues. And I'm like, yeah, that colonoscopy only checks the tissue. It doesn't check the trillions of bugs that are necessary for your body to function properly. So how about we check your bugs and see what's working, what's not, what's in there, what's not, what's supposed to be. But those biopsies don't do that. And then they send people away. Okay, we did it and you're fine, but the patient knows they're not fine. So I think that's where the type of work we're doing is trying to get to the root cause is so important to help people. Ultimately, they want to get well. They just don't know how. We had somebody asked, and then I want to make sure we cover cholesterol before we get off the line. But somebody asked about a tanning bed. So what is the spectrum of tanning beds? Where do you land on tanning beds for vitamin D sun exposure?
Well, tanning beds and the process of tanning is actually from UVA frequencies of light. And that also actually helps to produce nitric oxide, which is beneficial as a vasodilator, helping to normalize blood pressure. The vitamin B, or excuse me, UVB creates the vitamin D. So there's two different things. And most tanning beds, at least that I'm aware of, do not contain the UVB component, just the tanning components. So I guess if I was to lay on one, I would look for something that does have more of that full spectrum UVA and UVB, and I'm sure they do exist. You can get standalone UVA, standalone UVB in a portable unit, but that's ultimately what I would do.
Okay, great. All right, so I wanted to talk about. Oh gosh, there's two things I want to talk about. I want to talk about. I want you to touch a little bit on plant-based diets, and then I want to talk a little bit about cholesterol and why so many cholesterol medications. How are the pharmaceutical? How is that organization allowed to produce the numbers or say the numbers in a way, report the numbers in a way that they do that's deceptive and get away with it? So which one of those do you want to tackle first?
All right, let me tackle the cholesterol one, the statin drug one first. The statin drugs are the #1 selling class of pharmaceuticals of all time. Pfizer, their annual revenue is $100 billion plus.
Was that before the COVID vaccine?
That's actually post-COVID data. They're the first. It's the first time a pharmaceutical company has ever crossed the $100 billion revenue mark, and I think about $30 billion of that is from the COVID shots. But Lipitor, which is now atorvastatin, is the #1 selling drug of all time, and the drug is an abysmal failure. It is a lie. But because of the revenue generation from it, that the pharmaceutical companies own the doctors training, own the governing bodies in medicine. They work hand in hand with the mega insurance companies. They're all on the same board of directors. They go back and forth. And that's how you propagate this myth of statin drugs. The alleged benefits of the statin drugs, where the person who doesn't take a statin drug, they have a 3% risk of having a heart attack. If you do take a statin drug, you have a 2.8% risk of having a heart attack. That's the data. But they spin that in a very really just the spin of it makes the rest of the people who market in the world, they're amateurs compared to the marketing of the pharmaceutical companies. Pharmaceutical companies are not in the drug development business. They're in the marketing business. They are marketing companies who market these pharmaceuticals. And when you tell people 3% versus 2.8, allegedly, that's the best they have according to them. And then we say, what if we can offer you something at the office of Dr. Paula Ruffin, where you're not 3%, you're not 2.8%. What if you're in the 0% category? How do we get to the 0% category of having a heart attack or dying? And I think that we get pretty darn close to that with the way that we practice. And that's the functional medicine approach that you're doing. And I'll tell you, I just want to say this real quick, Paula, that I would sooner send a family member to Dr. Paula Ruffin than I would any other cardiologist who I've ever worked with. Unless, of course, the situation of in the middle of a heart attack. Although I do believe that if you were to adjust them, that would definitely alleviate some of the damage. I think cool things would happen. We could save that for another conversation. But the statin drugs are a total sham. Cholesterol in general is a sham. It's all about inflammation, all about oxidative stress, and the things that cause it, which are the violations of eat well, live well, think well. To address the second issue about veganism, I think I've already expressed I am anti-vegan. I think it's a starvation diet. I think the people who follow it are starving. They're starving their brain. They're starving their heart. They're starving their muscles. And it's just not natural. Like I said, paleontologists, anthropologists, every society in the history of the world, the explorers document it, the modern day paleo peoples, everybody is a hunter-gatherer. Every animal hunts and gathers in some way, shape, or form. And if they don't, if they're not like what about elephants and giraffes? They eat a lot of insects. So the vegan is the only animal on planet Earth that eats only vegan stuff. Now the only way that a vegan would get actual food into its system that's truly beneficial is the fact that the bugs are inside of the food that they're eating. So it's like, there may be some, ants or different insects inside of inside of the lettuce or whatever it may be. Maybe it's sneaking in that way or whatever. They have like some kind of like soy tofu burger or something like that. And
Right.
because they've destroyed the state of Illinois with soy and they churn up all that stuff and there's like squirrels and groundhogs and stuff inside of the soy, like maybe they get the benefit from there. But, I say that jokingly, but
It's true.
it's true. It's
Yeah.
it's
I
it's
I
horribly
mean,
true.
all of the farming of all of the grains that they eat, and like you say, the soy, I'm like, you don't think there were a few mice and groundhogs and rabbits and or what about all the microbes and all the bugs, the bees? I'm sure you killed some bees in that too, but
Yeah, it's
but
horrific. It's
it's
not right for the planet. What's good for the planet are free range grass fed animals. Hunter gatherer foods. Is that enough to feed 8 billion people? I don't know. That's beyond what I would say. I mean, and if it's not enough to feed 8 billion people, I don't know. Maybe yeah, I don't know. Maybe we got to rethink a few things. But it's Heather and I were also watching this movie with our little girls that had to do with their trying to give people, the globalists are trying to get people to stop eating meat for a whole variety of reasons. And they want us all eating insects. So they've got all these different insect farms and cricket farms and mealworms and stuff like that. And we're gonna, if we're gonna go down, we're gonna go down on fighting with our steak and our seafood.
Well, that I don't know if you heard or not, but Tyson, I think it was Tyson, just bought into some insect company to start utilizing it in their foods. And I keep saying too, if we wanted to kill. Let's see, the Irish government ordered 170,000 cows to be killed to help with their environmental issues, but yet we're sending an average of 2 rockets into space every week. And so what is that doing for our environment? But we want to blame it on cows. So, our system's so broken. And I think that from a food perspective, we have to bring it back to let's grow our own food. Let's raise our own animals. I know it's probably unrealistic for a lot of people, but if we can get into environments and communities and build those communities so that more people are growing and raising animals in a smaller area more sustainably, we probably would have enough to feed the world, I would think. I mean, I would hope.
Yeah, ask the people of Flint, Michigan, if they think the problem with the environment is cow farts, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's so true.
That's what did it. But
Yeah.
real quick, I do want to address that point real quick. Is that I went to a lecture about 15 years ago with my wife, and it was all about backyard chickens. And the guy says, if you have a backyard, then you must have chickens. And chickens are the easiest pet you can have. And they are pets and they produce eggs and they're fun and they're wonderful and they've got personalities. And if you have children to participate in raising the chickens and collecting the eggs from the chickens, it is a magical experience. Truly
Do you guys raise
magical.
chickens? Are you raising
We
chickens?
do. We do.
You do? Oh, nice. Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna have to come and see when I come out there to visit. I had a question
Anytime.
on
Anytime.
somebody said I take rosuvastatin, was told I can't eat or drink grapefruit. Why is that?
So what happens is that grapefruit is the breakdown of grapefruit, the metabolism is the same way that rosuvastatin is broken down as well. So you can alter your levels of rosuvastatin. And I'm not telling anyone to stop pharmaceuticals. I'm just telling you there's a lot better way, my friend, than rosuvastatin. A lot better way. Just because they drive your lipids down does not mean you're healthy. You're at very high risk. And the literature, again, just says that those who take rosuvastatin have a teeny tiny bit of alleged benefit. They all have a potential for side effects, and it's not addressing the cause of the abnormal lipids. You better find it out.
That's great. Okay, thank you for that answer. And we do have Bill works spends some time in the winter working in his greenhouse. He's a farmer. He says, "Do you think he can get sufficient vitamin D in that situation?"
No, there's you get UVA, you get some sunlight coming through. And I used to bike ride out of this place in the west suburbs of Chicago. And the motto of the store, Dr. Paula, was there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. So again, if you're going to be outside, wear the appropriate clothing. And even if your eyeballs are in the natural light, your face is in the natural light, there's going to be benefit there. Now, of course, I would take issue with that. Like, there really is truly bad weather in Chicago, but nonetheless, I think you get the point. Unfortunately, the UVB is only produced in the summertime when the sun is directly overhead. Otherwise, those ultraviolet rays bounce off the atmosphere, so you don't get appreciable vitamin D from that. You get zero vitamin D in the state of Michigan, probably let's say November 1st to towards May 1st.
Yeah, and I had made a comment too. I said it's better than nothing, from the sense that at least he's outside, he's
Totally.
getting fresh air. I mean, that's really, it's kind of like we have to take what we can get when we live in this environment, but being locked up inside all day. I mean, I have friends who live in their houses with their drapes are always shut, the air conditioning's always on. They hate going outside because it's too hot, and they're not well. They're just metabolically unfit people. So you have to become part of your environment if you really want to have better metabolic health.
Yeah, a plant, when a plant is inside, a flower is inside, it dies. All plants, all animals are outside. Our ancestors were always outside. Now we're all sitting inside, and we're on our tech, and the air conditioning's on, and we're in the artificial lights. I mean, it's a death sentence, and that's what we talked about. That's why there's so much sickness going on in this world.
I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we'll let you get going. But Dr. Boggs, so he's also a chiropractor here, just asked about addressing the issue of statin drugs and dementia.
Yeah, so there are many trials that talk about this particular issue. Some suggest that there is no linkage between statin drugs and dementia. Some say that they do. Some also may vary on, are they lipophilic or hydrophilic type statins, where that link is. I personally have seen a lot of cases of what we believe are statin-induced dementia. My father took statin drugs. I believe that's one of the factors why he is no longer with us. And when you take a pharmaceutical that markedly lowers your cholesterol down, and cholesterol is so important to the brain, to the body, every single cell, to the vitamin D, to the digestion, to all of our hormones, and why all animals on planet Earth make cholesterol, why milk from a human or a cow or a giraffe contains cholesterol, that's for the baby's brain. Why does a chicken egg contain cholesterol? And that's how you make a baby chicken. So cholesterol is incredibly important. If you lower it down artificially, your brain is going to suffer.
Great answer. And then I'm gonna ask one last question, or make one last comment. So I was on a live last night interview. I was over on Campanton Family Compound. He's in the chat here. Thanks for being here, Gil. And somebody was asking, we were talking about prepping for winter health. What do we do, going through the winter? How do we manage our health through the winter months? And somebody had asked about, what about sarcopenia? And so that is just leading to because I think it might have come up because we were talking about, veganism versus, eating meat and where that lands. And of course, sarcopenia, we're all subject to it as we get older, but I'm going to leave that for you. I gave my answer last night, but I'd love to hear your insights on preventing sarcopenia as we get older.
Our ancestors were very active, and there were plenty of old people in ancestral days, and they would build shelter. They would carry children. They would carry water, carry food. They were very active. So the more active we are, that's obviously very critical. And like I said, our ancestors came from the Middle East, so they had tons of vitamin D for bone health, for muscle health. So we want to make sure that we're very active with all these different things. And you are going to build a stronger body when you're eating animal products. I don't make the rules. It's just Mother Nature. So if I think about winter, I'm thinking about freeze-dried and, of course, frozen organs. We love freeze-dried liver, heart, kidney, and of course, the muscle meats that would go along with that. Another little shameless plug here. My wife and I both have a line of supplements that are freeze-dried bison organs. My product, I have Kickstart My Heart, Natural Heart Doctor. That's free-range grass-fed American bison liver and heart that you can take as well. Wildmamas.com. She's got a multi-combination product that's called the Mother of All Prenatals that contains 7 different bison, and these are the healthiest bison in the world. They really, really, really special. You'll see more information when you go to her website about that. But I mean, again, like fish in the wintertime, and then all the storage techniques that you talked about, eggs. That's the way to do it. And then there's a place, you may have heard about, called Amazon or UPS or, FedEx. These people deliver food all winter long. But, we're talking about prepping. You better be prepared because there may be a situation sooner than later where they turn off the food, they turn off the water. And I think that is, I mean, we saw the potential there for 3 years ago, where there was food shortages and water, potential water shortages, certainly out here in the West, where they're talking about right now. The Biden administration is talking about limiting flow from the Colorado River and shutting it off to certain people. I mean, that's 100 million people that could potentially be affected, and it's there. You better be prepared. That's all there is to it. Sarcopenia may be the worst of our, or the least of our worries.
Yeah. I would love for people to stop messing with us and just let us be. That's what I would like. Right.
Well, I'm a huge freedom person too. Paula, as far as, hey, listen, I guess if you want to damage your children, you want to damage yourself, that's up to you. I personally think it's child abuse in a lot of different ways, but it's like, hey, you want to do that to you, you do you, I'll do me. We'll see who turns out better.
Yeah. And don't force it on the rest of us. So, that's because we kind of got it figured out. I mean, I would talk about longevity and the way I was raised, and my mom she was in exercise class 3 days before she died. We were in downtown Detroit walking around, seeing all the holiday stuff. And she literally dropped dead at 86, almost 87 years old. That's the life right there. You just go, man, you lived fully until you didn't. And then just boom. So she didn't live with chronic diseases, and she didn't, she wasn't in a home. So I look at that, that's such a great lesson. And I keep saying it's the legacy of health that we leave behind for people, is that if we don't teach our children what it really means to be healthy, it does not come from the outside in. It does not going to come from, I forget what Gil Kim Panton family. It's what does he call it? The red something. I don't know. You might have to drop that, Gil. He's got a code word for the jab. But either way, I think it's just so important that we just continue to get this message out. You've been amazing. This is so great. I feel like I'm trying to rush, and we just scratched the surface. May I ask you to come back on? Would you please be my guest again?
I mean, listen, I love the real doctors. I love the chiropractors. I love the, people like you. And that's why, as soon as you, text me, and I'm like, I'm on whenever you want to talk. So, we have a lot of people who are against us. The pharmaceutical industry is extremely powerful, and they control the media. They control the message. And if we don't stand up on all these different platforms and shout our truth, holiday season's coming up, you're sitting around the Thanksgiving table with your relatives, and you can either sit there and talk about Michigan State football, or you can sit there and really address real issues going on in this world and get used to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Be comfortable, get comfortable with the uncomfortable situations and conversations, because that's the only way we're going to change the world.
Yeah, and I think that those of us who've held true to our stance, our position, our philosophy, are just gut knowing that what was happening originally was not right. We're still standing here, standing in that same truth. And so many people around us have started to wake up and question and go, maybe that wasn't the right thing. Maybe I did get fooled. Maybe I, should have listened to the conspiracy theorists. And, and here we are. We're still talking about the same thing, is how to stay healthy through food, through good mindset, through movement, through just healthy living in general. So it doesn't change,
I,
pandemics don't change that.
Yeah, let me say one more thing too, real quick. Anybody can Google the September 15th, 2021 issue, New England Journal of Medicine, where they presented the 6-month Pfizer data. And then a week later, same journal, September 22nd, they presented the Moderna data. And you will see in both of those articles from New England Journal of Medicine, a grand total of 0 lives were saved.
Oh my gosh. What was this? The September 2021 New England Journal of Medicine. What was the
Yes,
article?
September 15th was Pfizer. September 22nd was Moderna. 1 week after the other. And you look at overall deaths, you will see that in the placebo versus the other group, that the overall mortality was the same. So all these people who are running around about saving this and saving that, it didn't save anybody. And of course, I mean, everybody else who's listening right now knows all the downside and everything else that came to it. But I think as a lot of people would sit back and say, never again, there will be an again, and it'll be 10 times worse. And the attempts will be 10 times greater, and we'll be ready for it.
Yeah.
We'll be ready for it because it's coming. It's coming.
And
That can never happen. It just happened. It just happened.
yeah, 2 weeks to slow the curve, man. Right?
It just happened. Yeah.
And I think too that this also is where just prepping comes in, and raising your animals and growing your food. And I was saying on a live, I think last week, I said, I've always wanted chickens. I really do want chickens, but my daughter's gone. Like, it's just me now. So I'm trying to figure out how much I can handle. But all of the things I do, that's all tradable, right? When you start to think about what can you do, and Gil at Campanton Family Compound, he did a thing about what you can do to prep for prepping, learn a skill. So when you have a skill that is tradable, and that when we get to a situation where, if, like you're saying, if they shut the water off, if they shut the electricity, if things get 10 times worse, you need to be able to have something that is synergistic to your community so that you can stay alive together.
That's a phenomenal point, Gil. No, that's a phenomenal point, because as my wife and I are looking to build this community down in Costa Rica, we're trying to accumulate people with various skills. And yeah, if you're like the tech guy, you don't really have a lot of skills in that survival process. You need to develop something, whether hunting, gathering, growing, building, protection, survival type things. And I think that's a very, and what's scary about this, right, guys, is that in the schools today, the children are being taught none of that. And we've got 4 beautiful children, and they're homeschooled, and these are some of the things that we address with them. And my son and I went to this mountain man survival course, and we do things again with the chickens and the gardens and the growing. And really just speaking to you, Paula, and listening to any comments from Gil and stuff like that, it's just more of a lesson. Like, wow, we all got to do better. We all got to do better with that kind of knowledge, because that's the stuff that really matters.
Yeah. Gil asked if you would like to join us. So he has a channel called Gray Man Prepping Survival Saturday, and I've been on that 3 times now. He asked if you would like to join Survival Saturday sometime.
I would love to be on. Share my contact info, I guess. As long as he doesn't grill me too much about all of my outside skills, because I'll be honest with you, I don't have too many outside skills outside of health and wellness. But I am a DO by training, and my passion was always cardiology right from the beginning. So I never really focused anything outside of having to pass examinations with osteopathic manipulation. But after meeting my wife, she's brought me back into, adjusting. Although I can't say I adjust, I'm not a chiropractor, but certainly that modality. But we're raising our children just to be good stewards of the environment, good people, and children of faith, as well. And all that stuff is absolutely critical. So again,
Yeah.
Paula, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. I so appreciate this. I have so many other questions, but I want to respect your time, and so I'm so happy you're here. We will definitely schedule something again to get you back, because so many more questions. So hey, listen, if you guys have questions you want asked for the next live, you can drop them here, or you can drop them to my email. I'm going to drop my email right here. So send me an email, and then that way we can collect the questions for the doc, and get all your questions answered. But I feel like we were a little all over, but it was amazing. I feel like we covered everything at about a 30,000 foot view, and I'm looking forward to connecting again. So thank you so much. And you guys hit the thumbs up button for me. And don't forget, Jack. So I'm interviewing with Garden State Gardener next Sunday, the plant-based doctor. So that'll be tune in on that one. So that's going to be an interesting one. So Dr. Esselstyn is going to be on there, and I'm going to be real. I'm going to have to try not to say listen, or come on with a turkey leg or something. So.
Well, I think, we can, and I know you are, of course, we can respect other people's opinion. And if that's what he wants to believe, that's fine.
100%.
But I think, once again, once you start proselytizing that, to the millions, I think it's the wrong move, especially if you're pregnant, if you're trying to do that to the children. That's just wrong. But, listen, he'll have his opinion. You'll have yours, whatever that is. Again, hopefully we can all agree on the organic thing. I think a lot of these vegans too, they don't talk enough about being organic and having clean food. I think that's definitely a problem, but happy to kind of unpack the stuff that he talks about next time you and I speak.
Well, and I have a friend of mine, I'll make one more comment. So I have a friend of mine who wants me to work with him on nutrition, and he's vegetarian, he says. And I said, okay, or I don't know, vegan or vegetarian, I'm not even sure. And I said, tell me why. Because I always want to ask people, is it a philosophical thing? Do you just think you're doing a healthier thing? Where do you land on that? And he said, well, just with my spiritual journey, if I try to eat meat, it's actually repulsive to me. And I said, okay, so what's your typical diet like? And he's eating donuts and pizza. And I go, okay, so you won't eat an animal that was humanely killed for your nourishment, but you realize you're the animal and you are killing yourself with the food that you are putting in your mouth. And he was like, that's so think about this, just be realistic about when you say, I don't want to eat meat because it's a spiritual thing or a, philosophical thing. But then how are you actually damaging this animal right here? Wake up on that. So just my quick thought.
Totally agree.
All right. So I'll
Totally
send an
agree.
email. We'll connect. We'll get another date on the calendar, and I will share. I'll just do an email with Gil as well, Kim Patton Family Compound. I'm going to be on his channel next Saturday. So if the three of us jump on there, that would be amazing. So I'd love that. All right.
Thanks, Doc.
Thank you so much. And then listen, you guys, I'm going to get all of Jack's contact information. I did put 2 links. I put a link to your website, and I put a link to your YouTube channel. But and I dropped the link to your wife's the Wild Mamas site. I dropped that in the comments. I have it here. I'll put that. What was the other site that you said?
Well, I mean, mine is naturalheartdoctor.com, and then Dr. Heather's is Wild Mamas, MAMAS. And you talked about ethically sacrificed animals, if you will. So the mother of all prenatals on Heather's site, those are all field harvested animals. So they are shot from a far distance. They don't even know that death is coming to them. And then they are sacrificed for us. And then we will, bless bless them for their sacrifice.
That's outstanding. I think that's really important to talk about when it comes to humane animals. We just lost him. When it comes to killing animals humanely versus not. So I think we'll definitely ask him that question the next time he comes on. And yeah, thank you guys so much. I hope you found this helpful and insightful. I was really looking forward to seeing Jack today, and I'm so glad that he came on and blessed us with his presence. So it is 7:23. Thank you all for all your great questions, and I'll see you. So don't forget to tune in tomorrow for Reset Monday live right here. Remember, I'm doing that. That's not new on Facebook, but it is new being streamed to YouTube. So hold on one second. Hey, Gil, I will here. Let me see. It'll be in the show notes. So when I end this, I'll have it in the show notes along with his wife's site as well. So his link to his YouTube channel and his website are already in the show notes. But then I'll drop the link to his wife's in there, so you'll see it. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much. Great conversation, great chat, great questions. Appreciate you being here, and I'll see you on the next one. Have an awesome day. Talk to you soon. Bye.